Hello everyone and welcome. Oh my god, I think the mic is too loud. Okay, that should be a little better. Hello everyone and welcome to what is probably the buggiest stream I've ever had. So for those of you who are not in my Discords, for reasons, please join. I've been trying out the new Parallax Continued mod, which is the continuation of the Parallax mod, and it promised better graphics, but more importantly, better performance, because as some of you might know, when I'm trying to both run the game with like all the visual mods and stream at the same time, both in vertical and horizontal formats, it kinda gets hard for my PC to run the game at more than frames per minute. And so I was like really curious about it. I tried it out, but the problem is that you have to run it not natively. So normally there is a separate binary for Linux, which is what I'm using, but you can't do that. Well, I mean you can, but there's going to be a lot of visual artifacts because it uses OpenGL. So instead of using OpenGL for the native Linux client, you actually have to run the game through the Proton, which is like the whole Steam launch Windows on Linux thingy, and that runs DirectX, I think 11, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, it's just a different library, which should have a lot less bugs because it's a lot more modern. And it should also have better performance, even though it's running through a compatibility layer. And so I was really happy about that, and I tried it out, and it actually worked really well. The problem is, like, through all of the experiments when I was kind of trying to figure out whether like it'll actually work or not, I kind of screwed up my Ubuntu. And so I thought, why don't I try to install the brand new latest Ubuntu version, which is 25.4, which literally came out this April, and it promised a bunch of new features. It promised the new Genome 48, which has triple buffering, which is actually kind of important for games, especially for games that use vertical sync, and that kind of helps to improve the overall perceived quality, so that doesn't really change the average number of frames per second, but it does help with like those micro stuttering and everything. And so I tried it out, and it actually works really well, and this stream, hopefully I'll be able to show you some pretty dope graphics, because, I mean, they do look a lot better, because I'm able to run pretty much almost max settings on everything, and still get more frames per second than I used to in the previous installations. Should be kind of cool. The problem is that, well, it's a fresh Ubuntu that hasn't been, like, debugged correctly, so there's like a 50% chance that my laptop will just randomly shut down midstream, with another 50% of it catching fire. And yeah, I had to basically reschedule this stream twice, or even 3 times, because I was running into some serious issues with OBS, but I think it kind of works now, hopefully. I hope so. Hopefully it's not going to explode midstream, but you never know. And with that out of the way, let's start. And this stream should be named something like Money Space Program or something, because we're kind of out of money. Now, I know it might look like we have 60,000 funds here, but the problem is that, well, we've kind of accepted pretty much everything, and we don't really have like a lot of missions that we can accomplish without like spending even more money for new launches. And so we are going to be researching this like command modules node, because I've been working on a pretty cool design for a space taxi that I'm going to be using, because we've got to bring a bunch of tourists to one of our space stations and something like that. And the important part is that if I can, like, actually find it... yeah, so it should be utility ships. Yeah, there we go. So we kind of do have the money to launch it. We need like 49,000. We've got 60, except for the fact that we don't have all of the parts. And if I were to go and like actually purchase those parts, which is what I'm gonna do right now, because like I didn't do that before the stream for reasons, I think we actually just straight up will not have enough money to just launch it. But that's fine, kind of, because there's just this last contract that we can accept, and that is like actually the last contract that we can kind of borrow a bunch of money from. Hopefully, this launch will go fine. We won't actually, like, explode. Yeah, so now we have, like, 36,000. We need 49. But there's just this one more contract that we can abuse for a bit more money. And we also have, like, a lot of debt in the sense that we don't have... Like, not all of these contracts are something that we will be able to complete or will have time to complete, so probably we'll cancel some of them, which, again, will kind of run us low on money, which is why gotta earn some. And for this reason, I thought that this stream might actually be kind of good in the sense that it's not, there's not going to be anything too complicated for this stream, which is good because, well, yeah, I'm running like all these new mods and there's a decent chance that something might go wrong. Hopefully it won't though. And so for now we're gonna launch our Trazyn here as the pilots. We're gonna take all of these tourists and we're gonna visit our space station near Mun with our fancy new vehicle that I've designed here. I actually am really proud of how it turned out because it does have like this futuristic look to it. Hopefully gonna be pretty cool. We'll see about that. And I'm like literally waiting if the game will crash here or not, because like it says that it's loading, but it might actually crash or something. I don't know what to expect. Okay, so it actually worked, and as you can see, we've got the, like, all of the trees and everything with the new parallax. We even have, like, a bunch of these, plants and something. It's gonna be quite interesting once we go to Eve and other destinations. I've checked it out. The visuals are really something special. But for now, let's try to launch this bad boy. And for some reason, all of the settings are completely jumbled. Okay, so we want to go to 75 kilometers. We gotta force roll. We gotta do all of this. Disable staging, because, like, if one of these engines fails, we definitely don't have enough money for another rocket. In a descent path, everything looks reasonably well here. And we're gonna timer. Actually, I don't know. I don't think that there's like a benefit of going like to Aurora. We might actually be good to go like straight towards Mun. Let's actually just not time our launch and pretty much engage the autopilot, just go straight to orbit. And here goes nothing. Okay, so we launch it. All of the engines launch successfully. We disable the last, how they call it, like launch stability enhancers or something like that. The reason why I keep them like attached for a little bit longer is because there's a decent chance something might go wrong and one of our engines won't actually ignite, and if that happens, I want to have that little bit of extra attachment so that we can just wait until the boosters like burn off and then cancel the launch without having to rebuild the entire rocket and also without killing anyone in the process, which is kind of nice. Okay. just... Oh, by the way, there's like another weird quirk of running like the native thing. So in Windows, the Alt key is the Alt key on the keyboards. In Linux, it's not. The key used is actually right shift. Just stage the boosters there for a sec. So yeah, anyway, the key is right shift, and I'm kind of used to it by this point. There's gonna be a little bit of a relearning curve as I like try to use the other keybinds. Hopefully I will remember about it, but we'll see, I guess. And as you can see, the frames here are at like 25 frames per second, which is not an awful lot, but it's definitely better than it used to be. Well, I mean, it's not actually better. I think it's pretty much the same. It's just that the settings that I'm running are significantly better. And I don't really know what to comment here. It's just a regular launch here. The vehicle is liquid hydrogen, mostly. The reason for that is because I get to use these fancy engines, and they also look very nice. And another thing that I've installed is Firefly, thanks to... I actually don't remember who suggested it. I think it was one of my viewers. Well, it definitely was one of my viewers, but I just don't remember who for certain. But thank you to whoever suggested it. We now have the Firefly mod, which has these cool visuals from like burning in atmosphere, and they also change between the actual planets and everything. So they're different from like the gas composition. There's like a funny little green glow when you're flying through Eve's atmosphere, for example. Okay, I think we're actually high enough by this point. No, I'm actually gonna wait till we're like at about 50 kilometers, then I'm gonna stage the fairing here. Or we could just wait MagJet to do that, but I don't know. Let's try time warping here. It actually works kind of well by this point. I'm actually really proud of the visuals for now. Okay, let's go stage the fairings here. We've got all of these fancy hydrogen tanks here. And we're gonna coast the rest of the way to orbit, where we will auto-deploy solar panels, by the way, because why not? And try to circularize here. We should be able to circularize with, like, pretty much all of our fuel from like the actual space taxi in place. It's actually kind of efficient in terms of like cost efficiency. Yeah, I'm gonna enable auto warp here so that MagJet will not wait too much to circularize. Let's go do that. Actually, once we're in orbit, I think the frame rate is kind of higher. Yeah, it's about like 30-ish. Dipping down to 25, but you know, that's VSync enabled. It's also like, even though the frame rate is kind of the same, like the average frame rate is still like 25, what differs is that there's a lot fewer of these like lags or stutters when you have this like one frame, which is like equivalent to 10 frames per second, which just randomly happens. Okay, I'm gonna burn the rest of the way. I'm pretty sure I forgot about fuel priority, because of course I did. I'm actually going to try to enable fuel priority here. The reason why I bothered with that in the first place is because these are liquid hydrogen tanks, and hydrogen in them has to be cooled to negative bazillion degrees Celsius, and that uses electricity. We're using like 0.8 electricity just to cool our fuel tanks. So I really want to like use one of the fuel tanks completely, stop having to use electricity to cool it down, primarily use the other one for like the rest of our journey. And the rest of our journey is going to be towards Mun. Our primary destination is the space station around here. Just going. Yep, there it is. But for now, I'm just gonna set Mun as a target. And normally, I would use Astrogator to plot the course. The problem, or rather a nuance, or whatever you want to call it, is that this little space station is actually kind of going in the wrong direction. So like normally you would go counterclockwise, this one's going clockwise. That's why we actually have to be kind of careful in how we plot our trajectory. I will be plotting it like somewhere here, but I'm gonna schedule it to like the next orbit. And let's try adding a little bit of prograde maneuver. And yeah, we basically wanna schedule it. So like if I do like this, as you can see, we're gonna be entering here and then leaving somewhere here where it shows Mun escape. And I think that's like the wrong trajectory. Or is it though? No, this is actually the correct direction. I don't know. I was kind of testing it at some point, and I think something was messed up because I was arriving in like the wrong direction, but this seems actually kind of fine. So, not entirely sure what went there. But yeah, I think this is a good enough maneuver by this point. We still won't be able to execute it perfectly accurately because the thrust-to-weight ratio of this craft is kind of abysmal at 0.4. But it is efficient though, so there's that. And with that out of the way, let's use our trusty MechJap with our maneuver planner, and let's press the magical execute next node button, which will hopefully do everything for us, because we're lazy here. Lazy as hell. I was also considering buying the like volumetric clouds mod. Hopefully that'll happen soon, once I figure out like payment and everything. Should get even better visuals. Although I have no clue how like good is it in terms of like performance. Because we are kind of running frames per minute even here. It's like not that great. It's about like 30. Okay, so here MechJap is kind of arriving to our maneuver node. It'll automatically execute it for us, which is convenient. Hopefully we don't have to do anything about it. We'll just kind of wait until it completes it. There's not much to talk about it. I will be time warping through most of the maneuver. It's just that I want to wait to make sure that it starts correctly. And yeah, I think it's fine. So let's just try to add ×4 time warp and see how it goes. Again, I'm like super cautious. Maybe that's overkill for what we're doing here, but again, kind of expecting a lot of problems from this stream. Hopefully it's gonna be fine though. Might be overly cautious at times. Okay, so the MechJap is kind of finishing up the maneuver here. I haven't plotted it like super accurately, so it doesn't really matter how accurately it does it, as long as it like completes it within reasonable accuracy. And right now I'm just gonna switch to docking modes and use RCS to align us the rest of the way. Like, just correct our trajectory here a little bit. Try to get our periapsis here aligned. Maybe even switch to precise maneuver mode. And I think like putting it to about 20,000 meters seems just about right. And with that out of the way, let's just make sure that the solar panels are actually facing towards the sun, because we only got 2 of them. Which is not 360, like, all directions coverage, but it's kind of good enough. We also have these, like, weird notifications that some of our Bumblebee satellites are actually running out of electricity, which is a little concerning, because they should not be. Yeah, so, for example, Bumblebee 1 is running out of electricity. I want to investigate it for just a second, because I've been having these, like, notifications that they're running out of electricity, and I don't really understand why that is. It actually seems like the solar panels are kind of fine. Maybe it's just a little bug there. Well, I mean, it's kind of exiting the shadow here, and it's charging right now, so maybe it's just a thing where it just doesn't have quite enough energy to complete the orbit here. Maybe we can turn something off. We've got a lot of these, like, small antennas. Maybe we should turn something off. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, we actually do have one of them turned off. You know what? We probably have one of these antennas in, like, our Hex module. Yeah, that one. We can definitely turn that off. Hopefully that'll allow it to keep just a little bit more electricity, and also let's just turn the notifications off entirely, because who cares if our most important relay network goes offline? I mean, it's not like we care about it or something. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna be building a new one fairly soon here, anyway, because these are pretty damn old satellites. I do want to research just a few more tech nodes, but I think our missions to Eve should give us just about enough science so that we will be able to build a much, much more sophisticated network there. And with that out of the way, let's timer the rest of our way to 1. Yeah, hopefully we will be actually on, like, the same orbit trajectory, like, direction. I don't really know how it's called, but, like, we're gonna be going the same way as the our, like, Mun space station. I mean, it's not really a space station, it's just a bunch of ships that kind of got stuck-ish there. But yeah, it seems that we are actually going in the same direction, which is nice. So let's switch to Mun view. Let's try to add a maneuver node, set the space station as a target, and let's try to line it up. Oh, it actually seems like we're gonna be arriving fairly close to it anyway. So we might actually try to just create a maneuver right here. Maybe we can align our approach as is? Question mark. Let's try that. Because if we can, that's gonna be pretty dope. I mean, if we don't have to do a bunch of loopy-loops around Mun, that's gonna be nice. Yeah, we already got the intersect here. So let's just execute node. We actually launched fairly... There's a little bit of luck in our launch. Well, I mean, that happens. Sometimes you just get an intercept right away. Rarely, though. No, we don't do pre-calculations on this channel. Well, alright, let's see how it goes. The chat is awfully quiet. Give me something, guys. I'm getting kind of worried. Like, normally it's okay if someone's silent, but, like, I do expect technical issues, which is why it kind of worries me that you're silent. I mean, YouTube says everything's fine, but, like, I don't believe YouTube, I believe you guys. So anyway, yeah, we've got our intercept there. We might actually fine-tune the closest approach with MechChep here. Let's see what kind of node it creates. Maybe it'll actually fine-tune us even closer. Probably will. Just so that we get that, like, pinpoint precision intercept. And look at that! Our intercept is 200 meters. Still not quite perfect, but good enough. Okay, let's work closer to it. As we get closer, switch to target view, select target relative velocity minus, and we should be arriving within just a few minutes here. This time we're a little bit closer. We do have to be careful because we gotta burn for like 54 seconds. Luckily, we do have this nice little mod for suicide burns. I don't quite remember how it's called, but probably it's something about suicide burns or something. And I'm just gonna wait here till we get to basically 50-something 4 seconds till impact. Well, not really impact, we're not quite that precise, but close enough. And let's try to start the engine here. The engine started successfully. That's another small thing about herbalism, which we're playing, is that, again, engines might fail, which is why you want to start burning just a little bit earlier. Just in case something goes wrong, the engine doesn't actually light up. That way you might have just about enough time to go to EVA, fix it, if it's like not completely broken, and then hopefully get back in time and execute the maneuver before you slam into the space station with slightly more aggressive hello than you probably anticipated initially. But right now we actually seem to be on a nice intercept course. I'm gonna reduce the throttle here a little bit. Let's time warp ever so slightly. I don't want to shut the engine down completely because every ignition is a potential point of failure. But I'm afraid we kind of have to, though, because we are approaching kind of slowly. Let's just time warp with the non-physics time warp here. The game gets stuck during loading, because of course it does. And yeah, let's start the engine here. And stop somewhere about here. I'm just gonna slow down to just a bunch of meters per second, and then we can actually use the Smart RCS and just set Z relative velocity 0 once we're close enough. And then we're gonna have to do a little bit of orbital construction, because we don't actually have a docking port to which we can connect, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. Alright, actually closing in to the space station. Once we're barely touching it, I'm just gonna set relative velocity 0 and just park ourselves, and then we're gonna do the whole orbital construction thing. Okay, let's set to relative velocity 0, and, okay, killed rotation, please. And relative velocity 0. And why is it, like, trying to do some weird stuff with the rotation? Not entirely sure, but okay. So anyway, what I was talking about is that we don't actually have, like, the docking ports here, which is a quirk, if you will, of the these Utilis spacecraft that we've got here. So actually gonna force one of the engineers on board to go into EVA, take out those docking ports, which we have, it's just that they're kind of stored, and hopefully attach them to the space station. If I can line it up, thank you very much. Yeah, like that. So there's one, and probably gonna attach the other one, because why not? I'm probably gonna need 2 of them. Okay, the other one is also attached. Let's board. Get back to the seat, and I'm just gonna dock to whichever one. Doesn't really matter. Just gonna select the target as this docking port right here. Let's set towards the target. This here, again, also towards the target. Rotate ourselves. Wait till it all kind of stabilizes out, and then we will dock. And then what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna transfer all of the crew into one of these bad boys, because the space taxi, even though it is kind of cool in terms of like, oops, I accidentally started the engine there. Hopefully it's fine though. Yeah, it's fine. So anyway, the space taxi is kind of limited in terms of its like crew capabilities. It has only about like 3 seats, or no, it has 4 seats, which is not a lot. I mean, it was designed for like longer duration missions, more than just like the raw crew capabilities. And I also wanted to have, like, the futuristic look or something. But it can be used for refueling missions as well, which is kind of neat. The problem is that I want to return a lot of people from here. So I'm actually going to transfer everyone to one of these bad boys. And then I'm going to reattach my space taxi to the other vehicle and get one of these back to Kerbin, because it's an old design. You can see the solar panels here are like actually just static ones, because it's just a very low-tech design. And before we can do that, we actually have to like wait 4 hours till our tourists have some fun on the space station or something. Don't know. So let's go put ourselves into a time warp. And basically have to time warp for I think it's, oh my god, we actually have this like magical radiation detoxification unit that has appeared out of nowhere, which is a bug in Kerbalism. Luckily it can be corrected by doing a quick save and then just kind of loading it back. More annoying than like actually a problem, but still. So let's go do that, and we'll see how it goes from there. Okay. Yeah, luckily the magical radiation detox units stopped existing. Thank you very much. That is very convenient. So let's just time warp the rest of the contract duration, which is 4 hours. Okay, and we go to time warp. Just gonna make a bunch of loops or something. Gotta have the tourists play for a little bit, which kind of makes sense. I would not want to pay a whole lot of money just to get to a space station for it to immediately be disassembled and me sent back to Kerbin. That's probably not gonna be fine. And now that we have the contract complete, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna transfer all of the crew to one of these bad boys. So probably we have to like open hatches here, and we should be able to like transfer crew through the like this thing. And yes, we actually can. That is very convenient, because you can't really do that with some of my other designs. Because they're lower tech, not because I'm like a moron and haven't thought of that, because it's just simply not possible. Because like these, for example, command pods, I don't think they have like a docking ports on their bottom, so you can't really transfer crew through. So let's transfer the rest of our tourists. It's gonna take a little bit. Okay, so now hopefully we have literally no one here. which actually is a problem because we kind of need the pilot there. Can we please get Trazen here as our pilot to go back, because we actually want a pilot there. Because even though it's like fancy and everything, and it even has MagJap, not like we have a working connection here. So probably don't wanna pilot it with like as a satellite basically. Alright, let's transfer the rest of the crew, because I just want to return pretty much everyone. Although, it is kind of tempting to leave at least one dude on this space station just in case. Who do we have here? Here we literally have no one, and here we have two of these guys. Something W, something G. So... our Warwick is a pilot, and we also have an engineer here. You know what? I'm actually gonna leave a pilot plus engineer crew here, because it's a good crew to have. I'm just going to undock this module here. And now what I want is to get a little bit further back. Okay, now we just gotta rotate our space station here. So let's just select control from here, set that as target, and turn the other way around. And here we're gonna do the same. I'm gonna select this docking port as our target, face towards it, and try to dock back to it. Okay. And then we're gonna transfer Trazen to whichever one of these is going back to Kerbin. Which is the other one, I think. Okay, so the docking is complete. What we have to do is we gotta go into EVA, because we can't actually transfer through the space station, because it's not really a space station, more like a bunch of ships connected together. And we're gonna go to the other one. Masterfully completed. Find a seat there, and now we can actually get one of these to go back home. Now what we could do theoretically is try transferring some of the resources, because like we don't have all of the oxygen here. Might like actually transfer some of the resources from the spacecraft that's actually going back to Kerbin. But the problem is, again, it's an older design. We have like 1,000 tanks, and I'm like really not keen on transferring resources one by one. So we're not gonna do that. We instead just gonna undock it and go back as is. Okay, do we actually have RCS on these? Yes, we do. Oh, wait, how much Delta V do we have? Well, it says here that we have 900 meters per second. We probably could have saved some of the fuel, like liquid fuel, back there. But I really don't feel like it. Feels a little bit too excessive. So let's just get the hell out of sight. Like that, and... okay, can you please stop rotating or something? Why is the RCS still working even though I shut it down? Is this like a visual bug? Yeah, it's a visual bug. It's not actually working. Okay, and now I'm just gonna get this back home. Just gonna plot the maneuver somewhere here. Line it up just ever so slightly. Yeah, that looks good enough. Okay, let's use MagJap to execute the maneuver. But before we do that, actually, let's make sure that we've got both of our engines activated. Because I shut them down just to avoid accidental burning. That's kind of important. Because boy do I like accidentally smashing space bars or other keys that I should not be pressing. That just happens way too often on streams. Okay, should be able to get back to Kerbin here fairly safely. What we could do is we could actually try to get like into a low orbit and land near KC, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe that's actually worth it because we do have a bunch of resources and like the spacecraft itself actually costs money, and we just generally don't have a lot of money, so it might actually be worth it in a way. Not entirely sure there. For now, let's just complete the maneuver. Hopefully nothing explodes while I'm time warping, because that would be inconvenient. Okay, and the maneuver is successfully executed. What I'm gonna do now is just use the RCS to fine-tune our approach ever so slightly, just reduce our periapsis to about like 50,000 meters or something along those lines. And let's actually try to aerobrake into a lower orbit. Well, it's not going to be a complete aerobrake, it's probably going to be a mixture of aerobraking and just using the engines straight away. But hopefully that'll save us a little bit of fuel and a little bit of money, because money is kind of not our strong suit at this point. Alright, so yeah, here we can see trajectories kind of suggesting what's going to be our new orbits. We could make a bunch of loops, but that's going to take some time. Instead of that, I'm just going to use some of our fuel to kind of speed up the progress. Because, again, like, a single orbit like this takes more than a day, and I'm really not keen of just making a bazillion orbits. So instead, I'm just going to use some of the fuel to help with the aerobraking. The reason why I can't go lower is primarily because this is a low-tech design, and it can't survive that, unfortunately. Because, like, all of these landing legs and everything, they'll just get burned off into oblivion. So that's why we're not going to be doing that. Okay, let's time warp till our re-entry here. And let's try to start the engines. Burn the rest of the way. You do want to burn near periapsis, like as close as possible. But I want to start burning a little bit earlier, because, again, I'm kind of scared that we might actually burn up. I just want to be a little bit extra careful. And the goal here is to put us into a low orbit, so that we hopefully can descend and land somewhere near KSC. I do actually want to save a little bit of fuel here. This is not really low orbit, but it's, I mean, it's lower than going to Mon. There's that. The problem is that we're probably going to be passing, like, straight in the middle of the radiation belt. Well, actually, a little bit outside of it, but still. You do not want to cross the radiation belts all too often, because lifetime radiation is not good. And yeah, we've got the cool visual effects for re-entry. There's that. They actually look really cool. Alright, so we've exited the atmosphere here. I'm just gonna time warp to Apoapsis. And then we're just gonna schedule a small maneuver just to bring our periapsis a little bit lower, try to use more aerobraking, less using fuel for our further descent, and try to put us into like a really low orbit. And from there we will try to land near KC. Okay, can you put us into orbit retrograde? I'm just gonna schedule... I'm actually not gonna schedule anything, I'm just gonna burn myself. Yeah, that looks reasonable. Yeah, something like that. Plus or minus, give or take. Yeah, that looks perfect. Okay, let's do our second aero-braking pass, and from there we actually will put ourselves back into orbit, wait till we're in a good position, and then try to land near KC. This will hopefully conserve us a lot of money, because when you land on KC, you refund everything 1-to-1, but if you land like on the other side of the planet, you actually will pay a lot. Well, I mean, it's not like you're gonna pay a lot, it's just that you will recover like 10% of the funds or something like that, which is not really nice. Okay, let's watch the re-entry. It should be kind of beautiful here. Actually, I'm gonna drop the interface here. Except I do wanna make sure that we won't actually melt any of our landing legs or something. But I guess if they're gonna be melting, there's not much I will be doing about that anyway. So let's just enjoy the meltdown. Actually, let me hide my ugly face and enjoy the visuals. Okay, this is actually taking a little longer than I hope it would. So let me actually time warp through the rest of it. I mean, it's not going to be much different from what we've already seen. It actually seems like we didn't get too close to burning everything off, which is nice. Hopefully it's just not gonna randomly explode when I time warp or something. But yeah. Looks a little bit like a torch flame or something. I guess it kind of is though. And hopefully we will now be on like a low orbit. It's just that it's taking forever, even with a ×4 time warp. Again, the goal is to just put ourselves into a low orbit, and then drop ourselves near the KC. Hopefully we will have enough fuel for that, because it's going to be quite unfortunate to use all of this time for something that we won't actually complete. Probably still gonna land during nighttime. I have like the feeling. Okay, let's point ourselves prograde here and turn our engines on for just a little bit. And now I can use like the trajectories mod to kind of line up the approach. I'm actually gonna skip a little bit in atmosphere here, and then we'll probably make another small burn to land near KSC, something like that. Sounds reasonable to me. I mean, probably makes sense. Okay, again, gonna try to time warp here, just so that it doesn't take forever. I don't think we actually got the burning effects at all. Just a little unfortunate. But anyway, let's try to schedule the rest of our burn. And it doesn't like actually show up. Because of course it doesn't. Okay, let's burn here a little bit. And try to put the red cross over the KSC, which is where we will be landing in according with like planet's rotation and all of that. I'll put it into a slight overshoot actually, because we do have a bit more fuel, so probably we can like burn some of it while we're a little closer. But yeah, pretty much the rest of the way we're gonna be burning through atmosphere. So it'll take some time, but hopefully it's gonna be worth it. Hopefully we're gonna land basically smack on top of KSC. No visual effects though, we're too high for that. Although we should be able to see the sunrise. I mean, should be kind of good. Oh, look at that! We've got sunrise in orbit. Almost. And there it is. And it's over. Those don't last long, even when you're not time warping, and when you are time warping, they just literally take a second. I mean, they do take very... They don't take long in real life as well, but I mean, Kerbin is 10 times smaller than Earth, so it still takes surprisingly short amount of time around Kerbin. Okay, hopefully we can time warp the rest of the way here without many issues. I mean, this would be practically impossible to eyeball without the trajectories mod. That is an absolute lifesaver. By the way, I will stop the whole time warp thing once we actually get into slightly denser atmosphere. The reason for that is mostly because, well, this aircraft, well, rather, spacecraft is not particularly stable. As in, it has the annoying tendency to just flip itself upside down and crash into Kerbin at Mach Jesus. It's just hopefully something that we can avoid here. And for that, I'm gonna be stopping the time warp just about here. Yeah, I think once we get to like 45 kilometers, it's kind of dangerous to time warp all too much, because there's a decent chance it's just gonna flip over. And because we are on like a descending trajectory, it's not like we're just aero braking where if it flips, it's not that big of a deal. If it flips here, we won't be able to flip it back, and we're probably gonna slam ourselves right into Kerbin. For that reason, we actually do have the decouplers here for the boosters on the sides, but hopefully we can conserve those. And for that, let me actually deploy the parachutes here. But yeah, just in case, we can detach the boosters, which improves the stability of the spacecraft ever so slightly, just about enough for it to be able to rotate. And actually, let me start the engines here a little bit, because we are overshooting, which is kind of by design, but I think it's time to correct for that. Okay, that looks good enough. I'm just gonna burn the rest of the way here. If you're wondering, by the way, what is like this blue glow, which is like out of sync with the rest of the spacecraft, that's not a bug. That is actually called a bow shock. I can disable it. Oh my god, Firefly is with the whole 1,000 windows again. So yeah, if you disable the bow shock, it removes this like bluish glow. But that's actually realistic. That's how it's supposed to be. And yes, it should be like slightly in front of the spacecraft. It should have like normally a slightly different shape. It looks fine if you have heat shields, which is probably what you should have, instead of just an open window. But again, low-tech designs. We did not consider safety all too much with these. I mean, they're reliable just about enough to hopefully get you down safely. That's like their specifications. Maybe you will not die, but it's not guaranteed. Not even a little. This is, by the way, the precise time where I would like to time warp, but it's also the most dangerous part of the re-entry, because we are going like Mach Jesus, and if we flip here, it's going to be a really, really big problem, which is exactly why we're not doing that. Also, I think we're actually going slightly off course in terms of like equatorial orbits. Actually, kind of forgot to correct for that. I mean, it was not too noticeable once we were like actually in orbit, but it becomes harder to deny as we get closer to the surface. But at least now we have the drogue chute, so we're probably not gonna die. And the rest of the chutes are also deployed. We can probably turn ASS off entirely, maybe even deploy the landing legs, and hopefully there's literally nothing we can, or rather even should, do for the rest of the descent here. Not gonna be landing precisely at KSC. Unfortunately, like a little bit of a miscalculation in terms of like the longitude. But I mean, it's good enough. Again, I would like to time warp here, because this is not prime time content. The reason why I'm not even trying to do that is because parachutes in KSP, well, let's just say they do have a tendency to absolutely explode if you try to time warp for reasons. Especially when they just deploy. But even once they have been deployed, they still can screw you over. In super rare cases, that might actually happen even when you're like just descending with them like semi-open. Hopefully not the case here, but I'm not gonna risk it because I really don't want to replay. This is like a boring mission in and of itself, and I'm really not feeling fancy enough to redo the entire mission from scratch. What we probably should have done is not deployed all of the chutes so early, because now we're descending at like 6 meters per second. It's probably gonna take forever. I'm actually gonna try to quick save here and try to time warp just a little bit, because otherwise it's just literally gonna take 10 minutes or something. Hopefully it's not gonna explode, but you can never be sure. And now, because we're running Parallax, if you've been to my previous streams, you will notice that we have a hell of a lot more foliage, which is not that much exciting around Kerbin, but it's gonna be a lot more noticeable once we get to like other destinations and such. But again, we gotta get that money for it because we're like not actually cheating in our playthrough. Okay, and that's a landing. Let's recover vessel. Hopefully we'll get a bunch of money here, because we've got the tourists back, also got one of the astronauts back, so hopefully we're gonna get some money off of that. Not a lot of science though. And yeah, now we've got like 300,000 funds, mostly because we probably completed a bunch of contracts. We had one of the dudes we had to rescue, which is like just a dude we had to complete one of these contracts essentially. We've also got our tourists back, and well, I mean, we also saved some money from like recovering the spacecraft itself. So let's actually see what else we could try. We've got this like finished construction of a rover on the surface of Mon. I mean, this actually, like, normally I would ignore these contracts, but we do kind of want to get a bit more science around Mon, so maybe that's a good idea. Not entirely sure though. What I am sure is that we have still a bunch of contracts we have to complete, one of which is launching the Minmus space station. And like, we have our big fat Aurora around Kerbin, we could probably try to launch a similar space station just towards Minmus. So, it might actually be worth trying to do that. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to do a bunch of money here anyway. So let's try doing that. Although, how long have I been streaming for? Oh, it's just an hour, okay. Let's go try doing that. At least let's get off to orbit here. So again, we're gonna take our space station, we're gonna take our Aurora, which in this case is not actually going to be the Aurora itself. I'll name it some other name. And we're gonna launch it, dock to the actual Aurora around Kerbin, transfer some of the fuel, maybe, and then go all the way to Minmus. Again, we probably don't need 2 pilots for this. We could probably take just a pilot and an engineer. That's probably going to be fine. Yeah, let's try doing this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put Valentina in the command pod here. And you know what? Let's put the engineer as well, because it's a little bit safer there, as you can like somewhat detach it in case something goes wrong, which happens to be awfully often on this channel. Okay, let's just time warp till we're kind of below-ish the Aurora, so that we can make a timed launch and we don't have to wait a bazillion years in orbit for a rendezvous, because that's gonna be nice. Okay, so we've got the Aurora, if it bothers to, and it crashed. And the game just straight up crashed. Well, I'm guessing... I guess we don't do the launch tonight. Not actually sure what happened. I mean, oh, we probably ran out of GPU memory. Yeah, so the problem is that I have only 8 gigs of memory on my GPU, and just a few months earlier I was bitching about having just 4 gigabytes of VRAM, but apparently 8 gigabytes is not enough even these days. So I guess I'll figure it out. This actually crashed at a very good moment. I mean, there were a lot worse moments for it to crash before we like actually saved the game in something. But yeah, probably I'm gonna have to like turn down some of the settings or something, because it's using a bit too much VRAM. But for now, I think this was good enough for this kind of a test stream with slightly better visuals and everything. So I guess I'll see you wherever I decide to make the next stream. And thank you for watching.